president and founder of the Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry, Matt Slick, has a list of questions for atheists meant to show us the folly of using the concept of reducing harm to others as the basis of morality. Since that's how I get my morality, and responding to lists like this is like my catnip, it's time to give this one a go. Atheists routinely try to base morality on the idea of reducing harm, because the majority of people don't want to be harmed. Therefore, they say, reducing harm is morally good. If that is the case, I have some questions. Well, I can't say I speak for all atheists, but I speak for myself. What questions do you have? How do atheists define harm, and what justifies their definition as being the right one? To start, not all atheists follow this. We're not some monolithic group, where we all have the same beliefs and desires. Apart from not believing in an intelligent creator being, atheists have a plethora of different political, economic, and yes, moral beliefs. Personally, I define harm by being anything that causes a person to lose their ability to live their life and use their body the way they want to. I justify it by saying that's what harm means. Causing harm to somebody is an act that will take away the ability to let them live the life they want. Now, sometimes living the life you want can cause harm to others, such as refusing service to somebody because you don't like their race, gender, religion, or orientation. That's where the gray area lies. Whose harm is more important, and what should be protected at the cost of others' harm? How is appealing to the majority desire not committing the logical fallacy of argumentum ad populum to determine morals? It's not. I don't form my morals on what the majority wants. I form them on what I have decided what is important. Secondly, using your argument that we shouldn't harm people because most people don't want to be harmed is not argumentum ad populum, because that fallacy states what most people believe to be true is true. The most people don't want to be harmed argument bring up is not about what the majority of people believe, but how we should treat people. If the majority felt it was okay to harm others, and only a minority of us thought we should not harm most people, would you still call that an argumentum ad populum? If it is a logical fallacy, then why do atheists appeal to it? It's not. Why ought atheists work to reduce harm? For starters, it's because we live in a society, so what we do affects other people, and what other people do affects us. We need others to provide what we need to survive. Since our dependence on others is important, we need to not harm them. I know that harming me will prevent me from contributing to society, so that probably applies to everyone else. Or to put it simply, I don't want to be harmed, so I don't hurt others, and hope everyone acts the same way. How is it not a double standard when defining good as that which reduces harm, and that which reduces harm as good, yet atheists complain when Christians say that God is by nature good, and what is good is what reflects God's nature? In the Venn diagram of things that are good and things that reduce harm, reducing harm is a subset of things that are good. Not just reducing harm is good. Increasing happiness is also good. When a Christian states, God is by nature good, and what is good is what reflects God's nature, then they're making a circular argument without defining what exactly is good, and what exactly God's nature is. If reducing harm is morally good, then shouldn't atheists work to stop abortion since it causes the greatest harm to a life by killing unborn babies? If a woman feels that the harm would be done to her life by carrying an unwanted clump of cells that are not yet human enough, then they should be allowed to choose that. The main point, what is being aborted is not a human being, but something that has the potential to become human, so another person is not being harmed. If reducing harm is morally good, then shouldn't atheists be morally obliged to join the military and go to war with radical Islam so as to stop its spread, and thereby reduce the harm to millions of people? For starters, the harm they would be subjected to would not justify the harm they could prevent. And honestly, selfishness. There is a reason why members of the military are considered heroes. They're willing to be much more selfless than us civilians. Now, if the actions they are sent to do are reducing harm, that's a completely different debate. If reducing harm is morally good, then does it imply that the ends justify the means as long as harm is reduced? In some cases, yes. I truly believe that murdering a person harms them, and since we shouldn't harm people, we shouldn't kill. That being said, if killing a person who is an imminent threat to the harm of others stopped that harm, that would outweigh the harm caused by killing them, so it could be justified. If the ends justify the means, then are lying, adultery, cheating, stealing, etc. all okay if they reduce overall harm? Well, let's go through each of these. Lying. If I was to lie to my wife that she looked good in a dress that I did not care for but she liked, then the harm I did to her by lying is justified by the happiness she receives from the compliment. Adultery. Adultery harms your partner by destroying the trust they've put in you. I cannot see how having an affair would reduce harm enough to justify harming your partner with that betrayal. Maybe, if someone threatened my family and said, "Sleep with this woman or I'd kill everyone you ever loved," I would consider that adultery justified. Rare that would happen, though. Cheating. Again, I cannot conceive of a situation where cheating, destroying the trust of another person you are attempting to cheat, will reduce harm in others. If there is such a case, please enlighten me to it. Stealing. Well, the old cliche about stealing a loaf of bread to feed a starving family will reduce the harm to that starving family, i.e., keeping them alive. while causing harm to the baker, the loss of a loaf of bread. In that case, keeping people alive is a lesser of two harms there. If an atheist believes that religion causes harm, then shouldn't he use lies with religious people in order to undermine their religious presence and expansion and reduce harm? No. Unlike the example above, in this case, lying will destroy the trust of the audience, which will mean that the arguments the atheist is trying to make will also be untrustworthy. If you need to convince someone of a point, then trust and honesty are needed. If you want to convince people of an argument, you need facts. Making up lies about religion will just cause the listener to disregard the arguments made when those lies are exposed. If reducing harm is morally good, then how many hospitals have atheists built, or wells have they dug, or cultures have they taught agriculture and provide electricity to, etc.? As a socialist, I am pleased that my tax dollars go to needy things like healthcare and good infrastructure. I don't like paying taxes, but I do like they go to needed things. I know libertarians who think that taking of their money in taxes harms them more than the good it will cause, or even helping others causes harm because they are not helping themselves. People have different ideas what harm is worse than other harm. Since Christians build hospitals, dig wells, visit third world nations and upgrade their technology, thereby reducing harm, then why are atheists increasing their attacks on Christianity? I have never heard of anybody complaining about hospitals being built by Christians. How those hospitals are used, I've heard arguments about that. People can do good things, even if they're doing it for a lie. I personally would like if they built hospitals because it was the right thing to do, not because they were trying to appease an imaginary god, but the end result could be good. I can't dispute that. Why do atheists work to get the 10 Commandments removed from public areas, since those same 10 Commandments reduce harm when followed? Mainly because if they are posted in public areas, then that is the state endorsing a religion, which causes harm in the form of mistrust and putting into second-class citizen status those who do not follow that religion. If atheists are routinely getting the 10 Commandments removed from public places, then are they advocating lying, stealing, adultery, and theft, since they don't want those prohibitions posted publicly? It's not that atheists are pro-lying, stealing, adultery, and theft, but their reasons against them are pragmatic, i.e. they harm people. These things should not be done just because a fictional being says they shouldn't be. But if there is a decent reason to generally prohibit some actions that prevents more harm than it causes, then there should be a law prohibiting them. What is it about lying, stealing, murdering, and committing adultery that are unconstitutional? This question only applies to the USA. I assume this relates to the above question about removing the 10 Commandments from public spaces. As a Canadian, I guess I'm not supposed to answer this one, but I'll give it my best shot. As I said before, I do respect your Constitution. It's an amazing document, legally, politically, and honestly, poetically when compared to ours. Something about that language is just great. Anyway, as far as I can tell, there was nothing about lying, stealing, murdering, and committing adultery in the Constitution. Crimes like murder and theft would be state or possibly federal laws, but not, as I can find, specifically in the Constitution. One thing that is in the Constitution is somewhere at the beginning of the amendments. I think the first one. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Which means that while a private citizen can post the 10 Commandments wherever they want on their own property, as a religious document, the government is not allowed to have them up on public land. If reducing harm is morally good, then shouldn't atheists appreciate Christians who seek to reduce the greatest suffering of people by trying to get them saved in order to avoid eternal damnation? Because there is no evidence for this eternal damnation you seem to threaten people with. To an atheist, your threats of hell are either lying and or instilling fear into people, both actions which harm others. If you want to save people from this eternal damnation, the first step would give us some evidence that would actually happen. That will give people a reason to try to avoid it. Would it be okay to rape a woman in a coma if she doesn't know about it and no one ever finds out, since no one is harmed, but it gives the rapist pleasure? Do you not understand the idea of consent? Like, at all? This is using a woman's body without her consent, something I mentioned way back in the first point as immoral. Even if she is not conscious, it's still her body. It can't be justified, as there is no way I can think of that a rapist getting his rocks off using this woman would reduce any harm, especially since he could probably get the job done on his own without having to use anybody, except his own hand. Anyway, there you go. What I find moral and what you find moral can be very different. It just shows that's a subjective concept. You have to justify your actions to your God. I have to justify my actions to myself, and I have to look in the mirror every day and live with the choices I make. That's what keeps me moral, knowing that the choice starts and ends with me, so I have to be responsible for that choice.
Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful